So after running pnpm generate, it will create the adapters for you. And in our case, we have created the DHIS2 demo adapter. So if you go to packages, you'll find a folder called DHIS2 demo. And inside it, it will contain all the adapters file that comes with it. So let's take a look. So starting with the asset, so basically this is where you put your logos. And as I mentioned earlier, the dimension for these, we need one rectangle logo and one square logo. And this logo will be used on Lightning. And then looking at the SRC directory, you'll see that we have the adapter.js file. So basically, this is where your adapters functions will live. And we have index. So this is where you'll export all your adapters functions. And for utils, this is where you'll build a util function that can be reused in our adapter.js file. In some cases, you have utils that you want to use in job code, and it's totally fine to export them. So in some adapters, we do export some of the functions from util. Other folders are like tests. So if you look at test, basically you can write unit test, and it's very simple. You first create a mock server, and then you intercept pretty much any request for a given function, and then you reply with the response that you want to inspect, basically. So you can really replicate pretty much any case. You can replicate 200 status code. You can replicate 400 and any kind of test that you would like to write. Another important file is, so the changelog. This is where you will edit your changes that you have made to the adapter. And one of the very important function is the configuration schema. So basically, this is where you will add all the properties that are used in your credential. So if the REST API you're connecting to support Beth auth, that means you need to specify all the properties for that credential. So the base URL, username, and password. In other adapters, it might be like a database adapter, so it will need maybe a host URL, username, and password, and other options. So that's where, in the configuration schema, that's where you will describe what is the required property whenever you're creating your credential. And this schema gets used on Lightning as well in the credential creation form. If your adapter uses any other packages, you can add them using pnpm. So if I go inside my package, which is DHIS2 demo, if I need to add any package, I can just simply use pnpm to add that package. But if you don't need any other package, by default, we use language common in all of our adapters. So if you look at the adapter.js, there's a lot of functions that we're using from language common. So so for example, here we're using expand reference, which is coming from common. We also export a couple of functions that are coming from common as well, but these are more like the usable function that you need in any of the implementation work that you will do. So whenever you're writing your OpenFn job, you see a lot of the jobs use this FN block. Basically, if you need to do any kind of transformation for the data, this is the function that you need. You also have other functions like cursor and datafns. So this, like for setting up cursor, this is for formatting date, and other functions. So all these functions are documented. If you go to that specific function, for example, in common, let's take a look at one of the function. So for example, if you wanna see, let me see if I can find one for you. This is HTTP, no. So this is where you'll find most of the functions. yeah, I need to, okay, not that one, that's not a good function. Fn, for example. Yeah, so for example, Fn function, yeah, there we go. Yeah, so Fn basically, this is to create a custom state for more flexible job writing. And we give you an example of how to use it. So pretty much any of the functions here that are exported are documented, and you can see the documentation on the website. So most of the adapters that we have are REST API based adapters. So that's why the templates gives you the REST API implementation for this use case. For example, if you're working with the REST API, that means you are making GET request, and also sometimes you are making POST request. These are more common type of requests that you'll be making. So by default, the adapter will provide those. The template will provide those functions for you. And we also have request, just in case that there any other type of generate HTTP request that you want to make to that REST service. And looking at the utils, so basically these are like internal helper functions that help you construct your adapters functions. In our case, for example, request is what we use, common request is what we use in our adapters. So if I expand this request function here, so as you can see here, we are calling the util request function, and we are passing in all the required arguments. And if you look at that function, you'll see that basically it handles authentication for you. It has some error handling logic. It has some options for making it the request properly format, and other stuff. So yeah, in a nutshell, that's what comes with this npm generate command. So let's actually test this. So if I assume that I'm working with a REST API, in this case, I want to work with the REST API of DHIS2. So to build the adapter, I'll run pnpm install, and then I'll run pnpm build. This will make sure that it installs all the packages and it builds my adapter. Perfect. So you can see that the documentation was built, and also the functions that we're exporting from common were built as well. Yeah, awesome. And to test now if the function is working perfectly, so in my case, I have a separate project that I've set. Let's see here. So this is how you'd write your job. Now, let's imagine that you want to make a GET request to DHIS2 organization units endpoint, and there are a couple of fields that you want. So you write your job to make a GET request to that specific endpoint. And I've set up the credential to use the DHIS2 instance, and I have a workflow execution plan that is set up here. Basically, you need to specify the, sorry, you don't need the name, but basically you need to specify the ID of your job, the expression, basically this JavaScript file here, the adapter name. In our case, we have created DHIS2 demo, so this is where you specify the adapter name. Since it's a local instance, I'll show you how you can run it using the local instance, using CLI, and then configuration. So this is where I've set up my credential. Actually, it's just the demo credential. Let me show you how it looks like. So basically, based on the configuration schema that I have, I specify the base URL to be the, I specify the base URL to use the DHIS2 dev instance, and then the username and password for DHIS2 demo instance is usually admin and district. Admin, and then the password is district. Yes, voila. That's pretty much it in terms of setting up my my credentials. So here Yeah, let me say, yes, this is where I'm going to use my, my credentials. Now to run the job, remember that one of the instruction is to install OpenFN CLI. So I have the latest OpenFN CLI. Let me see which version I am on. So yeah, basically this is all the versions that I've set up in my local machine. I'm using CLI version 1.10.4. Yeah, and to run this workflow, basically you would say OpenFN and then pass to the workflow.json and then -m. So this is basically, I'm telling the CLI to use the adapters monorepo version of the adapter instead of installing it from npm.js. So I'll say -m because I've already specified the adapter, that's fine. And then the last option that I need to specify is where I want my output to be. So I'll say and then I want you to put inside the output.json. It's important that you add your final output to a git ignored folder. In my case, I've already ignored the temp directories. That's why even the credentials, I've put it there because you don't want to accidentally track these on GitHub. So yeah, let's run it. Awesome. This is good. We have an error. So yeah, basically, let's read what that error is. It's saying that error passing the response object, passes JSON, got text. Okay, this is good error. That means that we're expecting a JSON body, but I think we got text back, if I'm reading this correct. Let me look at the job real quick. I think we can do this. We can say, actually we can say parse or text. Let's try this and see if that will fix. Yeah, so it fixed. So I got the response. Oh, I think actually the problem is in my credential. So let me quickly confirm that. DHS2 creds. Yeah, the problem is in my credentials. Sorry guys. .im play.im DHS2.org. Okay. Yeah, I think the problem was my credential. So I fixed that. I don't need this option here. So let's run our workflow again. OpenFn workflow. Voila. So it made a GET request, and you can see here in my final output, the response got added to state.data. So this is the actual response that I got from DHS2, and it gets pushed to state.data. And if I want to specify other options, like you have seen there, like if I need to change the header or I need to change the response type, I can just say, for example, pass as text. I believe this will return the response as text. Let's try that out. Awesome. So my final output now is text. Okay. Yeah, but so these are like out of the box, basically what the template has in terms of the request options, and you can find them here, like in the documentation. We have the request options, documentation. So what kind of thing that you can pass as a request option? You can pass in the pass as, basically what the response body should be. You can pass in headers if you want to customize your headers, query, form, and other items. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. Now let's say that you have a very specific need. So for example, you want to have a helper function that fetches organization units for you. so that you don't have to every time use the get function. So in that case, let me confirm first if I can just fetch organization unit only. Okay, so let's fetch. Awesome. Yeah, I can fetch organization unit only. Awesome. So, for example, in this case here, like the way this API, sorry, this request is structured, you can actually make a GET request and specify all the fields, all these items are like this. So first, basically, I think you would say query, and then you'll say fields, and then the values for fields will be, yeah, I think this is the same as what we were doing earlier. So let's run this quickly, and let me adjust the log a bit so that we see what's going on. So let's adjust the log to info. Dun, 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 dun. Awesome. Yeah, so basically we made a GET request and specify which kind of fields we need. Yeah, so pretty much that's how you'd run your job and test the functions that you get out of the box. But let's go to one step deeper. So let's say that I want to have a helper function that will fetch organization units, or I want something that will fetch program out of the box. So for example, let me confirm if this run the same as well. So that fetched program for me. Yep, programs, awesome. So let's use program. Actually, I think it's much more simple. So you create a function, for example, here, let's call this function fetch, maybe get programs. Yes, get programs, and then it will take options. Now, the thing that get program needs is, for example, here we are specifying pretty much all the query options like this, or we can specify the query like this. But because we don't want to have like every time we are calling the function using /API/program. So what we can do here, exactly what this suggestion says here. So sorry, I think I've misspelled function. Yes, we're in business. So I'll say make a GET request to API/program, and then pass in my options. And you can even be specific here. You can say the first argument maybe is fields, so that you specify all the fields that you need. The second argument could be query, if you want to, and then here you could pass those options as for example, this will be query, and then it will be, sorry, I think it will be query, and then it will be fields, and then, yeah, and then I think inside query, yes, inside query here, yeah. So it will be fields, and then, yeah, this should be like this. Any other query params that you want to pass. Does that make sense? Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So that means in my job here, I can say get programs, and then I can say fields. Of course, it's an object. Do I want fields to be an object? Actually, I want fields to be string. So fields, I want this to be string. So I can say ID, display name, and pretty much any other thing that I need. I think even if I say star, this will return all fields, that's fine. And then if there's any other query that I want to pass, so in this case, let's say I want the page size to be 5. So we have taken down this function here, this API request here, or in other sense, this looks like this. If I want to use a query param, /API/programs, and then I can specify the query, and then I can say fields, yeah. So basically, I have changed this. Let's match it a bit. I've changed this into this. And this is more like specific, like get programs. This is how I can specify get programs. So yeah, let's run this and see if it works. Let's make sure that we have built our adapter. Let me actually run the build watch command. So that's watching. Yes, that's good. And then here, let's run our adapters now. So that is expected to work exactly like this. So let's run our workflow now. OpenFn workflow. Yep, let's increase the debug a bit, the login level a bit to debug. Okay, awesome. Yay, it did run, right? And we got our results. And we have ID and display names. Let's actually try something else. What if fields was all? What would that do? Yay, it did run. What do we have as a result? Okay, sorry, why is it returning only display name and ID? Maybe those are the only field that it has, but I think we can specify only ID, for example, here. No, I don't think it's running. Is it though? Let's confirm that it's properly running. Let's add some logs here. Fetching programs. Okay. It has built. And let's open this output here. Okay. Let's run our workflow one more time. Yay! It did run, but I am still seeing display name and ID. Let's look at our function, just making sure that everything is fine. So one thing that usually helps to debug, sometimes you just need to do, sometimes you just need to log your payload that you're sending. So for example, let's put it here and let's say these are ops. Okay. What else am I missing? Yeah. And then we can actually console.log options so that we see what we're sending. That has built. Okay, let's look at our function now. Let's run the workflow one more time. Awesome. So looks like everything is the way it's supposed to be. So we are making a GET request, and this is how the query looks like, which is good. Let's try to change this to all, maybe. What will that do? Why is it still? Okay, maybe let's remove the pagination thing. Let's remove the pagination. I'm curious why it's only returning ID and display name. Okay, we have removed. Interesting. Interesting. What if I say display name? Sorry. What if I say display name only? interesting. So I don't know what's going on with the DHIS2 API, but yeah, basically this is how you'd write your adapters functions to be very specific to what you actually want to do to DHIS2. Yeah, and then the important bit there is to actually make sure that you document what that function does. So for example, in this case, we know that this make HTTP request, this make a request to fetch program. So you say make HTTP request to fetch programs. And then the example there will be get programs, and the first item that you need to specify is actually fields. So this will be, for example, like this. And then this will be, for example, page size. Yeah, right. And then pretty much make sure that you specify the documentation for the field type. So for example, the first argument that we're taking here is actually a string, and it's called fields. And basically these are fields to fetch. And then the second bit is the query, which is an object. So this is called query. Query parameters. That's fine. Yeah. And then when this is built, so when this function is built, you'll see that the documentations here shows, did we build? Actually, let me build. Let me run npm p npm I and npm build, just to be sure that it will build my documentation. Yes, it builds. So yeah, document is properly documented. And if I go to docs here, I'll be able to see the function get programs. As you can see here, we have get programs. It takes field, which is a string. It takes a query, which is an object. And we do have an example here. So yeah, that's how you write adapters. I hope you found this very useful and insightful. I can't wait to see what you have made from this. Thank you for listening in. Catch you on the next one. Peace.